Hello, welcome to Only God Rescued Me, my journey from satanic ritual abuse. I'm Lisa Meister, your host, and today I am delighted to bring to you Courtney Epps, who is an SRA Victor. She is an author, speaker, and she is a tax strategist. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
I really appreciate you spending the time and doing this. Can you tell me about your story? What happened to you?
So for me, a lot of things were missing for quite some time, and I really, prior to age 39, only had a memory that I was molested by a uncle, and my parents allowed that uncle to continue to come to my house every Sunday and come upstairs. 55 years old, I'm 10 years old, and he comes upstairs and plays Barbie dolls with me. And the more that that I told myself that story, it didn't make sense. Like, why did my parents allow that to happen? And I'd remembered calling or going to my school, telling my guidance counselor, and them calling DSS, and my family coming in, who all work for public schools and the government, and them telling, pushing it under the rug. It's like it didn't even exist. And that same uncle, or he was a cousin, he showed up to my family reunion when I was 16 years old, and I was told that I just needed to get over it. And so, none of those things sat right with me. And when the D class came out last January, a part of that D class was something called the Satanic Cult Awareness Guide. And that Satanic Cult Awareness Guide, I opened it up. It's from the Department of Justice's website. And I looked at the picture on it, and I remembered when I was 16 years old that a police officer had come to my church and shared that Satanic Cult Awareness Guide with us, and showed us that there were families who disguised themselves as Christians, and they would actually infiltrate churches in order to take people and bring them into their satanic world, and what they would do to children, and the psychological warfare and spiritual warfare that was happening. And so I remembered that picture, and I immediately went back, and I had so many questions, but I had no answers. And so as I started doing some research. I actually stepped back. I had a spiritual attack, and I didn't know it was spiritual attack at the time. I just woke up one morning and I felt like chains were wrapped around my arms and my legs. And I freaked out, and I put my family in a circle, and I started saying the Lord's Prayer, because that was the only thing I knew. I knew something was after me and after my children. And a couple nights later, I woke up and it felt like a demon was breathing on me. And I could feel him, I could sense him there, but I didn't understand what all this was about. So this was going on, and I was scared to sleep at night. I wasn't eating. I went for about a week and didn't eat at all. And I just started doing research and research and research. And I kept going into Freemasons. Well, I knew that my grandfather was a Freemason, a 33rd degree Mason. And a friend of mine called me out of the blue, and she's like, "Courtney, how's everything going?" And I'm like, "It's not okay. I am not good. I don't know what's going on, but I am scared." And she connected me to a lady named Robin Braun, who had been dealing with SRA and trauma from Freemasonry for about 30 years. And I immediately got on the phone with this lady, and she said, "Look," she said, "I know you probably don't know anything. I can send you my dissertation. I can send you some video content. But before we even speak again, I need you to do the Freemasonry renunciation." And I did. I did it all in one night. It was about 6.5 hours, and I immediately started feeling free. But what else I did is I realized how satanic the world of Freemasonry was. And so I started realizing that my reality of what I thought my family was in fact not what they were at all, because my grandfather was a deacon of our church. And so I started just questioning everything, and I engulfed myself in just finding books and information and piecing this stuff together. And slowly my memories were starting to come back, and just things that didn't make sense. Just, it may be a sentence that my mom would tell me, like when I was a little girl. She said, I got bit in the face by a dog, and I had 60 stitches in my head. well, I don't see any scars on my face or in my hair. And so some of those things just didn't make sense. And so I just started diving into information and working with Robin to kind of pull out some of these, because I didn't know what SRA was. I didn't think that I'd been satanically abused. I thought I'd been molested. Then I remembered, well, I was actually raped. And and I woke up one morning and I'm like, my mama is not my mama. My grandma is. And I'm like, what is that about? That is not even logical. And then I woke up one morning and I was like, my best friend who was killed in a hit and run when she was 7 and I was 8. And I'm like, Jennifer was killed by my family. And then, I woke up another morning and I was like, Ken Register didn't murder Crystal Faye Todd. My family did. And so all these crazy little thoughts just kept coming in my head. And then I met a deliverance pastor, and he actually helped me get baptized by the Holy Spirit, start speaking in tongues. And then I went through deliverance all in the same day. And within a matter of a week, all of my memories just started coming in, just like nonstop. And they were horrific memories. I'm not going to say that they aren't. But as I started to remember and start piecing everything together, I realized that I had such a purpose to share this information with the world. And God wasn't giving it back to me to hurt me. He was giving it back to me to help others.
And to heal.
Yeah, exactly. And to heal. And the cool part about it is that what I realized is that one of the altars is actually Courtney. So Courtney is actually an altar, and she kind of stepped in when Whitney, who was actually what my mother said over 100 times, that's what I wanted to name you, when you were a little girl. And now I realize that was actually, my name was Whitney. And so Courtney kind of stepped in and took over. She's like emotionless. We got to go. We got 6 kids. We got to take care of the family. You got to work. You got to make ends meet no matter what, just go gung ho going and doing it. And then while Whitney was over here in the corner, not knowing what to do, like almost like, stuck in a little ball, like what in the world are we going to do and deal with this? So when I realized that Courtney was the altar, not the actual me, I was able to actually integrate the two. And instead of hearing her speak to me, Whitney speaking to me, I actually was able to see what Whitney saw. And so that has just been just in the last month, which is totally amazing, because I'm like, why don't I see these things? And they weren't my memory. They were not Courtney's memories. They were Whitney's memories.
It's very interesting how our parts take over and make us functional. I was very busy too. That's how I stayed.
Yes.
Like I could feel like everything starting to well up inside, and I'd push it down by getting so busy. So when I started dating my husband in college, there was no time for him anywhere. And he's like, Lisa, you have too many irons in the fire. So I had to start taking stuff down. And then you have to start dealing with reality,
Yes.
which is really tough. When
Yes.
when you're broke, you feel so broken. Did you feel broken when you were growing up?
I had no memory. I was in MK Ultra. So and we laugh about this now because I've got a group of survivors that we hang out about every quarter. And the first thing I would say is, when you ask me about my childhood, it was amazing. Like there were no arguments. Like my family loved me. It was just so great. And honestly, I don't think I would have remembered anything had I not left the property, because I lived on family land. And 8 years ago, this Monday, my family, sorry, hold on a second. Can we edit this?
Yep.